She ain't want to look at something so horrid, but I'm like steady on my own grind way. I'm like, gotta keep it doing it big, do it big, do it big, do it big. Do it big, do it big. You got big dreams, you got big sueños, you got big huevos. Don't forget to follow those dreams. Don't forget to follow those sueños. No time to be scared. No time to be overly warped out, buzzed out, fuzzed out, and franticalized, tantalized. Do it for the predecessors that lay the foundation, serialized. Do it for the big J, do it for the big A, do it for the big V, do it for the big G, do it for the big A, do it for the big dies. Oh yeah, you think you a big boy, but you haven't really met a really esoteric big Don. Do it for big J. I do it like it's big time. I do it like it's new time. Do it for Big J. Do it for Big A. I do it for Big BB. I do it for Big CC. I do it for Big TT. I do it, not trying to get that big L. I do it for that big W. Yo, right under you, right under your nose. You never really known. Solution was always there, foretold. It's been foretold. It's a different type of prophecy zone. Prophecy, watch it as it unfolds. I didn't mean to be so cold, scold, yo, never grow old, yo, do it like it's big time, do it for a big J, do it for a big K, do it for a big A, B, C, elemental P, yo, get the fuck out my PP, do it in 3D to 5D to 7D to 9D, yo, do it on a different type of hyphy front, yo, timeless front, yo, no time to be complaining, no time to be scared, no time to be scared, yo, watch this, original wizard here to do a different magic play, different magic scene, different magic ambiance, yo, different type of audience, attract what you are. I do it for the big R, do it for the big stars, do it for the big dogs, do it for the big hogs, yo. Never seen a real esoteric big boss. I ain't gotta prove shit, yo. Big solutions to your big problems, yo. You got big huevos, yo, because you ain't gonna stop till you uncover all your sueños, yo, big BB with the big CC, with the big EE, yo, elemental P with the big TB, yo,
stick with me for 30 seconds.
I'm cast up like a TP. I do it for a big J, do it for a big L, do it for, is this life nothing but a matrix big spell? Do it like it's big time. Do it like it's grand finale. Do it like it's the last chapter. Do it like it's the final boss. What's the cost just to be alive? What's the cost to go on this new segue? Is it yo? Because any day could be my death day. Different. Anything could be my due date. My different type adapted to different type of sonic boom, different type of holographic frontier friend when I illuminate a new pathway, and I don't mean to brag, I'm like, what's the task today? Ahead. Yo, follow those dreams, follow those sueños. Do you got big huevos? Do you got? And I'm chill though, yo. Like esoteric, celestial spheres. I blow it like a cello. Blow it like cello. She don't want to look at something so horrifying. I do it for a big J, do it for a big A, do it for a big B, do it for a big D, yo. I'm saying it metaphorically, or I'm, doing different. It's bad. It's bad, guys. It's bad. I'm gonna finish the chapter. So this second part, oh shit. So I'm just gonna finish the chapter. So I started it with a song. So I did 3 songs today, and I'm just gonna read the book. No biggie. God damn it. For some reason, I just went to 14. So now I'm just gonna read the book. I had my break time. I'm all caught up. Keeping that energy fresh or whatever. Fresh meaning in this context, knowing how to use it with purpose. So it's a different type of fresh, using it with purpose. And yep, if people sing in the backdrop, okay. It's like who knows type of shit. So the fable. Whoa! The book is just a bunch of snakes come out. Turn all the pages into just a bunch of fucking snakes, huh? All of this like spirituality. It's like it's coming from like some type of snake craft, right? Or some like some degree of it, right? So it's like so to decondition, we're gonna have to like kind of come to terms with how we used to like fuck with that in a different life, right? So I'm just gonna read the chapter. Oh my gosh. Okay, it's right here. So I'm just gonna read the chapter. And this is part of the risk, because obviously like people who don't like me, who want to harm me, just generally saying it, of course they would attempt to use shit against me, right? That's just the game of the Matrix and God being observant and non-reactive, and then maybe something after that, right? So obviously I'm like mindful to the fact that people have enemies, right? And they're going to use things to kind of like assassinate your character without purpose, right? Without reason, right? Because the reason I do what I do is people are like they're crying for like an answer. And just because I showed up casually in my own unique abstract balance, and I take accountability, I'm just a different person than y'all. And you can't necessarily be jealous because you have the chance to work to something like that. So if you have the chance to work to something like that, but you go like you do an anti-intention, but you're hating on something, then there's no warrant to be jealous because you have the ability to fucking have a new good intention, right? But if you don't want to do that, then we fucking know what the fuck we know what the psyche is about. We know the fucking we just know the inversion of things, right? Like God gets it. God sees it all. It's like people people like really have like you have no idea what someone could be planning against you. Like you have no idea what agenda someone else could have. You have no idea of like just what agenda they want to make, But God does know. I'll tell you that, motherfucker. God knows your motherfucking agenda. All of it. So, chapter 14, Orpheus Revisited, the fable. The long line of Orphism extends from our Paleolithic past into the foreseeable future. Its characteristic features are encoded into the Roman fable of Orpheus and Eurydice, one of the oldest still living legends of the European tradition, somewhat like the Ramayana of India from the point of view of the partnership-dominated theory of prehistory. We may interpret this fable as a vestige of the lost partnership of the past. Orpheus is the prototypical feminist male hero seeking to restore the equality and partnership of the genders. Orphism survives in the modern day and from the time of Christ onward, almost exclusively in this myth. This chapter is devoted to our heritage of the long line of Orphism.
in the form of the Orpheus myth and the mythogenesis of this theme from earliest Sumer, Inanna, Erishkigal, and Dumuzi to the present. From the perspective of general evolution theory or mythogenesis, an entire myth complex constitutes an evolutionary sequence. The gods and goddesses all have interactions with each other extending over time. They get into fights. They don't speak to each other for a long time. There are horrible murders, rapes, and family feuds. See, this is everything right here, dude. Like he's accounting for something that's already happened. So Ralph, like he's saying a different enlightenment timeline. So like this is everything right here, right? So look at the gods and goddesses all have interactions with each other extending over time. They're caught in time. Material matrix karma. The gods have material matrix karma. They're caught in time, but some of them, the very, very few, transcend time. That's the Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto mystery shit. So that's the thing. It's like y'all are caught up in time. Literally, y'all are caught up in samsara, the wheel, the physical matrix reel that's that has a shifting shadow presence here. So we see in the whole history of the mythological complex from Paleolithic times to the present a gradual shift from the goddess to the god. So some goddess energies are transmutating to God. So the gods, they transform their genders spiritually first, and then maybe if they want a good representation of that, some surface level gods opposed from the ancient gods, some surface level gods, they could have messed up experiments, and they themselves could be some context of a transgender, advanced esoteric knowledge, and the transgender people come from an experiment from just a different shadow matrix, right? Because now we're trying to figure out like where did the transgender people come from? Well, if you read in between the lines of the paint, within spiritual mutation, we could go from feminine spirits to masculine spirits, but it's not what you do, it's how you do it on a spiritual level. So it's like, where are the transgender people coming from? Certain shadow gods have messed up experiments of how they went from feminine to masculine spirit, and that has been reflected. The experiment has been reflected into the physical matrix, and then that reflection is coming from a different spiritual mutation. Original source number one. We see in the whole history of the myth. So the gods and goddesses all have interactions with each other. I'm on chapter 14. I'll go back to chapter 13 because chapter 14 was just calling me. I didn't bring the Tao today for some reason, but I'll go back to the Tao in the business episode tomorrow. But I'm on the whole timeline series. So the book is called. So here's what the book is called. So the book is called Chaos, Gaia, and Eros. To the people who are new to this timeline series, a chaos pioneer uncovers the three great streams of history. Chaos, Gaia, Eros deliteralizes history so that we see it not only as a sequence of events, but as a flow of ideas and cultural myths. So cultural myths coming from some different idea, and the idea and the cultural myth are interplaying and fusing, and then that makes surface level sequence of events. Life, we're a product of this shit. Now you're a reflection of some shit that's happening in the spirit realm. Original open source. So the gods and goddesses all have interactions with each other, extending over time. They get into fights. They don't speak to each other for a long time. There are horrible murders, rapes, and family feuds. We see in the whole history of the mythological complex from Paleolithic times to the present a gradual shift from the goddess to the god. So maybe some goddesses, they turned into a god, or some feminine spirits took on a masculine form, casually, not good, not bad. And some masculine spirits, they could have taken on a feminine spirit, right? And that's all embedded into the human being. So the human being, within the standard basic genders of male and female, they're either embedding a primary gender, one over the other, but still both genders are still kind of like a micro embedding, within the human being, right? Because like even every male has feminine qualities, right? Within like, you know, the elements, and every female could have masculine qualities, right? Still, there's a basic standard of male female. So the bifurcation. So I kind of brought an abstract concept to it, right? We see in the whole history of the mythological complex from Paleolithic times to the present, a gradual shift from the goddess to the god. Okay, I said that. So from the partnership society described so well in Rian Eisler's popular book, The Chalice and the Blade, to the patriarchy of 3500 BC, which continues to the present, this shift is also manifest in the mythogenesis of Orpheus and Eurydice. Eurydice. Euridice, the Sumerian prototype. As described in part 2, our earliest historical version of the myth of descent and return is the story of Inanna Ishtar, Dumuzi Tammuz, and Ereshkigal Alatu. And he's not necessarily specifying the breakdown of the slash in between names. Inanna, the replacement for the original Sumerian mother goddess, so there was an inheritance. Inanna received like an inheritance from like a dragon mother lineage. So Inanna visits the underground, is detained there by her older sister Ereshkigal, and is released on condition she send back a substitute. She sends Dumuzi, her young consort. In the mythogenesis of this tale, the Sumerian Dumuzi becomes Assyrian Tammuz, Egyptian Osiris, Cretan Dionysus, and Greek Orpheus. So obviously, like one note of caution before reading any of this Sumerian stuff is we don't necessarily come with the approach that they're doing it at a multi-dimensional approach. We're coming at a linear approach, and that's why we get confused, because we're totally oblivious that they're doing some multi-dimensional shit, and the humans are new to the gods' multi-dimensional shit, right? So where the humans are catching up to their shit, and we forgot our relationships to their shit. And I'm just casually saying that, right? Because it's like when we're reading this, if we don't recognize that their shit is multidimensional, we could get confused because certain titles could be used, you know, in different covenants, right? Titles could be used in different covenants, and they could like. And the same title could be an older and a younger thing at the same time, right? So that's why. So we have to recognize like they have like they already have a multidimensional approach, right? So the Greek myth. If we look up Eurydice in graves, we find her name means wide justice. She is associated with serpents. She holds serpents in her hands, like the goddess of Ras Shamra, like the goddesses of Ras Shamra and Crete. And Orpheus is known in modern mythography to be a principal figure in the mythology of Minoan Crete, the last stronghold of the goddess religion and partnership culture of the Paleolithic past, enjoying peace and a successful economy and living in harmony with its environment. In early Greek myth, Orpheus was the poet, musician who could move trees and animals with his art. He was one of the Argonauts, the unique non-warrior who fended off the sirens with his music and founded the mysteries of Dionysus. While both Orpheus and Eurydice existed in the Greek pantheon, however, the relationship did not. Greek myths were popular in Rome, and around 42 BC, Virgil joined the Orpheus and Eurydice legends into a single romantic fable. In this version, the father of Orpheus is Apollo, one of the leaders of the patriarchal takeover. When he was only 7 months old, he got out his bow and arrows and slew Python, the serpent of the goddess and oracle of Delphi. Eventually, Apollo displaced the goddess at Delphi. Virgil's story is the first of the Orpheus legends in which Eurydice appears. In it, we have their courtship and marriage. and her death, the daring rescue attempt by Orpheus, and so on. The whole story is so long, but Orpheus and Eurydice are only mentioned in a portion of about 75 lines. The rest of the fable is about Aristus, the older brother of Orpheus. He is the heir to the tradition of Apollo. Devoted to the overthrow of the goddess, like many Greek and Roman gods, he is a rapist, devoted to male dominance. He rapes Eurydice, and in trying to escape, she steps on the snake, an aspect of the suppressed goddess tradition, and is called back to her own place, the underground, symbolizing the unconscious and the diminished status of woman in Greek and Roman society. Orpheus and Eurydice represent the two genders, and their loving relationship presents the partnership of the genders. We see that the three fundamental principles of Orphic religion, Chaos, Gaia, and Eros, are none other than Orpheus, Eurydice, and their partnership. Alternatively, as suggested below, the roles are given to Eurydice, Demeter, and Orpheus. So it's a unique trinity of how their quote-unquote natural ancient pagan religion kind of like upholds things casually. And that trinity is just their basic approach and how they uphold things, right? Because there's like millions and billions of different trinities, right? But this trinity was more significant, right? Because it upheld like some type of covenant, right? Thus, the fundamental principles of Orphism are encoded in history as our heritage of Greek Orphism. Some more flowers. Floras Blanco. Oh no. Oh no. So, the Roman fable of Orpheus defies the feminist male hero and calls forth the suppressed androgen within us all. Wait a minute. Okay. Thus, the fundamental principles of Orphism are encoded in history as our heritage of Greek Orphism. And then the side column, mini paragraph, the Roman fable, which he repeats it. He's just emphasizing the Roman fable of Orpheus defies the feminist male hero and calls forth the suppressed androgen within us all. Okay. In the Greek myth, we witness the violent end of Orpheus at the hands of the Maenads, priestesses of Dionysusism, and its degenerate practice of animal sacrifice was the target of Orpheus' reformation. The Maenads tore him into pieces, which floated down various rivers. They not only eliminated Orpheus, but their own husbands. This is among the oldest aspects of the Orpheus legend. There are different theories as to what this means. Plato refers to the violent end of Orpheus in the myth of at the end of the Republic. Virgil's theory. Virgil disposes of this question with a single line. The Thracian women are resentful. Guthrie believed that Orphism was misogynistic. Ovid's theory. The next version of the legend is by Ovid, who was born about the same time that Virgil published his version. Virgil's one-liner is replaced by a different theory in Ovid, which occupies 650 lines, fully 8 times the length of Virgil's entire poem. In Ovid's version, a love song in praise of boys and pederasty, there is an interesting kind of misogyny in which the women are portrayed as being jealous and resentful. They are being ignored because men have found a way of doing without them. From the perspective of our partnership interpretation of the myth, the Maenads are women who support the dominator society and act to preserve it by attacking partnership reformers, male or female, which I'm sure could be
maybe a modern thing, perhaps. Partnership theory. According to the partnership dominator theory, the myth may be interpreted as follows. After the partnership of Orpheus and Eurydice, the prehistoric partnership of the genders was terminated by his older brother Aristeus. The patriarchal takeover. Aristeus. So this is like, we're debunking. So this is called the whole timeline because we're debunking the quote unquote past translations, right? So there's past translations like 6,000 years ago, certain key subsidiaries of archons, you know, they were selected by, you know, I guess the surface level, some surface level archons selected surface level, you know, new individual beings to kind of like, you know, interact with the material reality. So Aristeus, the patriarchal takeover, Eurydice, womankind, was reclaimed by the serpent, Eurydice's mother, the goddess, and retired to the underworld of domination. Orpheus, the feminist male hero, tries to restore her to full partnership, but Hades tricks him and pulls Eurydice back. So they're like, we're in this Matrix game. So we're getting sober with the intelligence and logic at this point, because these, like, they're doing their no choice stuff, and we have to react to their no choice stuff because they're trying to justify why the gods are fighting. You know, the gods are fighting, and they all have their own reasons. They're trying to like, they're like ancient. It's like ancient, like primitive shit, right? Like they're doing ancient primitive shit. Like they're like literally like this shit happened. Like it literally happened, and like we could recall these memories and shit. And like I'm just flowing with it. Like I'm flowing with no choice, right? And obviously I might be I'll admit it, you know, I'll admit it, you know, I'm like some version of a not self, right? Like, okay, people could in whatever community, human design community, I understand their perspective. Okay, I'm some degree of the not self, right? I'm some type of fool, right? Okay, now what? Now back to this. But Hades tricks him and pulls Eurydice back, the dominator backlash, which inevitably follows a partnership revival. The murder of Orpheus by the Maenads, women supporting the dominator system, points to the role of patriarchal women in defeating feminist men. So this is a lot right here, because there's female psychologies who've been trained and groomed to act in accordance with some particular patriarchy that's trying to, like, you know, really dominate some shit, right? To relate the Roman myth to the Orphic Trinity, we may propose this concordance. So the murder of Orpheus by the Maenads points to the role of patriarchal women in defeating feminist men. To relate the Roman myth to Orphic Trinity, we may propose this concordance. Pause. Please take your own criticisms. Please take all distorted criticisms back and look in the mirror. Please take all distorted criticisms back and look in the mirror. Please take all distorted off-key criticisms back and look in the mirror. To anybody that just wants to make up some shit. Eurydice chaos, slain by Aristeus, Marduk order, and captured by the underworld like Tiamat. So he, according to his, and I don't necessarily agree with these accurate translations, because a lot of these Sumerian historians, I think that they can misplace the titles, because he's trying to say that Aristeus is Marduk. So that's like, and that might not be accurate, but it could be. And if it is accurate, you know, we weren't there for, like, you know, the reason of it, right? Demeter Gaia, the mother goddess, Orpheus Eros, who goes back and forth and is torn apart like Osiris Dionysus. So he's using Chaos Gaia and Eros in different contexts. He's using Chaos, Gaia, and Eros as characters, and then he was using Chaos, Gaia, and Eros as themes in themes of like some type of energy some type of energy change and energy laws, right? So he's using Chaos, Gaia, and Eros in different contexts, as it seems, like characters or some type of like principle, right? You know, chaos is some type of like, you know, divine mind. Gaia is the body, and Eros is the spirit of change, right? So the spirit of change is synonymous with Orpheus. So that's the thing, like the titles may not be accurate, right? So if you don't like, if you're not discerning with that, then you can get more confused. So like we got to be careful not to confuse this knowledge. Because like why study inaccurate knowledge? That's like it's like if we can't notice that agenda, well, obviously there's a whole different reason. Even in the Bible, the Tower of Babel. Let's see what Google has to say about the Tower of Babel. Let us go down, like, you know, and obviously like other people have their own spiel of the Tower of Babel. Tower of Babel is a biblical story about humans attempting to build a tower that would reach heaven, symbolizing their pride and ambition. God, displeased by their audacity, confounds their languages, causing them to scatter and complete the tower impossible. The story is often interpreted as a cautionary tale about the dangers of hubris and the importance of humility before God. The story, in the book of Genesis, after the flood, humanity, united in language and purpose, decides to build a tower that will reach heaven, a symbol of their power and independence. They envision this tower as a way to make themselves a name and prevent them from scattering across the earth. God, seeing their ambition, intervenes. He confuses their languages, making it impossible for them to understand each other. Impossible. So that was like, who knows how long ago that was, you know? And it's crazy how like we could translate languages now. As a result, they are scattered because we're testimonies to seeing how we're relating to the phenomena of life, right? Smell, the five senses, see, taste, like seeing, feeling, tasting, touching, and hearing. So within all of those senses, we could give that a word, and then by, you know, attempting to explain a sense or an object through some type of you know, enunciation or aphorism, if I use that word right, then we solidify that enunciation with the collection of words and enunciation words, creating a language, right? So this is how the ancients were creating languages. They created it by their phenomenal experience with the senses. And from the senses, they governed their own way of going about those senses. They titled those senses, and they have a root language. So there's a root language. As a result, they are scattered across the earth, and the tower construction is abandoned. The name Babel, meaning confusion, is given to the city where the tower was being built, reflecting the linguistic and social chaos that resulted. Hubris and pride. The story is often interpreted as warning against excessive pride and ambition. Humans, in their desire to be like God, attempt to defy his authority by reaching for the heavens. So that's the artificial. That's the art. That's and for me to say not good, not bad is a fucking miracle, but it really is, like, and how I'm using it in the context, it's a miracle, but there's a opposition. There's like an anti-matrix, right? So what do I mean by anti-matrix? The matrix that goes away from spirituality, from God's spirituality. So like matrices, and for me to say not good, not bad, it's a miracle, right? The long line again, and this is a short chapter. So no, not bad.
The long line of Orphism began in the Paleolithic past with the goddess, partnership, and so on. Classical Greece is a mid-station on this long line, a turning point in the transformation from gender partnership to male dominance. The Roman Orpheus fable of Virgil and Ovid is a representation of this transformation in a simple myth for ordinary people, presented as Orphism submerged and the Roman Empire. With its atheistic approach took over, the essence of the story was packaged for posterity, and for us by these possibly unconscious servants of the muses, Virgil and Ovid. The continuing popularity of this fable is due to our nostalgia and unconscious memory of the golden age of partnership, the Garden of Eden, and our longing to recover from the fall into the dominator paradigm. The rapid growth of Christianity in the Roman Empire may also derive from the identification of Christ, the shepherd of being, with the beloved Orpheus image. The Christian suppression. In Alexandria, different groups lived side by side: the native Egyptian community, the Neoplatonic Greeks, Jews, early Christians, and so on. Into this melting pot went pagan elements, and out came Christianity. Elements of Orphism were injected into the early church, and Orphism disappeared as Christianity exploded. So Orphism is there in some type of seed, remnant, right? The Christian suppression of Orphism was a key factor in the development of European culture. Traditional features of pagan society, the detailed metaphysics of the celestial spheres of the Pythagorean and Neoplatonic traditions, the presence of soul in all things, the sacred nature of the biosphere, which may be essential to an enduring society, were discarded. So there's a reemergence of the sacred nature of the biosphere, obviously, right? So obviously that's just happening, right? Besides the general intolerance of the church for all things pagan, and Orphism is pagan, the Trinitarian aspect of Orphism was most unacceptable to the early fathers. The Trinity at the heart of the long line of Orphism is, in early Paleolithic times, stabilized the early history of human consciousness. The Paleolithic trivia, the triple-headed goddess, the trinity of three female principles, transmigrated to the divine triads of Sumer, Babylon, Egypt, Crete, Mycenae, Greece, Rome, and Christianity. Gradually, their genders changed and male gods got older and more aggressive. In Babylonia, order defeated chaos when Marduk killed Tiamat. This gender transformation culminated in Judaism with the cult of Yahweh, and in Christianity with the suppression of Orphism and replacement of the Orphic Trinity by the Christian Trinity. The medieval evolution of the myth made Orpheus into a Christ figure, troubadour, courtly lover, and singer of love songs. This development accompanied the troubadour period in the south of France, a noted Orphic and Gaelic resurgence. A miraculous transformation began with the revival of classical paganism, the entire pagan myth complex in rebellion from Christianity around 1430 in Florence. With the financial support of Cosimo de' Medici, who commissioned the collection of classical texts and their translation into Latin by Marsilio Ficino, the classic myths were portrayed in all the arts, in paintings, music, and poetry. The mythogenesis of the Orpheus legend resumed, merely to read the poem. To see the play or to hear the music invoked anew these principles of the Orphic Trinity, chaos, order, and the artistic bridge for going back and forth between the conscious and the unconscious, the overground and the underground, exemplified by the power of Orpheus' lute. Within the revival of pagan art, ritual, and myth, opera was born in intentional imitation of Greek tragedy. The beginning of opera is synonymous with Orpheus. The earliest recorded opera, written by Perry in 1600, is the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. The second opera, by Caccini in 1602, is the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. The third opera, by Monteverdi in 1607, is the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. There are at least 26 operas in the 1600s about Orpheus. and 29 in the 1700s, including classics by Telemann, Gluck, Handel, and Haydn, and not only operas, but also operettas, beginning in 1858 with Orpheus in the Underworld. By Offenbach, later accepted into the operatic oeuvre. Similarly, with musical theater and film, Orpheus is a traditional theme to this day. The Orphic mythogenesis goes on, incorporating pagan elements not allowed in church. So they dropped an opera vibe. God damn it. Ovid's cosmogony begins with chaos and progresses through a conflict between the goddess Natura, Physis of the Orphic hymns, and another god. Natura is cosmic power, the original mother of all. And obviously, we all have that monkey mind that's going to do the collective monkey mind shit. So obviously, so your monkey mind, don't project your shadow bullshit at me. Your monkey mind should project your shadow bullshit to Thoth. She was a fundamental religious theme in the late pagan world. Her power over human souls persisting throughout the Middle Ages, especially in the Gothic period. An anonymous hymn to Natura appearing in 1782 was attributed to Goethe. In 1828, after rereading it, he wrote, "Although I cannot remember composing these observations, they are quite in accord with the conceptions to which my mind then soared." Another partnership theory. The secret. So, like, obviously, like I've done presentations where like I don't read books, right? Like I do astrology and I've done underground shit. So for anybody new to my shit, like I have different styles, you know. I'm not just always like reading the book. Like I do like intuitive like presentations. So, and obviously, like this is me reading this book is hella raw. So I understand that, you know. Another partnership theory. The secret of the success of this theme has to do ultimately with our nostalgia for the Garden of Eden. The partnership society, a world of peace and plenty and living in harmony with the environment, are longing to reattain this world, which now exists only in the unconscious, is a collective memory not really accessible. But like with God, anything is possible, right? But with God, anything is possible. Partnership is the theme, and Orpheus and Eurydice the representation. Even Plato criticized the story, saying that if Orpheus were a true hero, he would have killed himself just to follow his lover to the underworld, rather than coming back without her. As a partnership person, Orpheus was very unhappy without Eurydice. Society seemed unworthy. In the end, he goes up to heaven, saved by his divine parents, achieving immortality. So this is like spirituality is like cusping these details. So these details are cusping, you know, the ancient spirituality. So I know it's raw, but this is like this is like really important, you know. But if you don't give a fuck, you know, that's the toxic matrix, you know. I don't give a fuck, but you not giving a fuck. Like if you're happy within toxic matrix and like, you know, toxic contracts and future like fuck shit, your attention is voting for that, and it's your responsibility. So thank you. I appreciate that. The myth may be interpreted in terms of Eisler's partnership and the dominator dichotomy of social structures. Alternatively, it may be seen as an expression of the utopian dialectic of Tillich's political theory as foolish fantasy seen from hell, earth, or as ideal life in the kingdom of the gods. A modern Orphic trinity, recalling the Nietzschean dialectic, recalling the Nietzschean dialectic of Apollo and Dionysus. Karl Kerényi proposed in 1950 to interpose Orpheus as a unifying element. This concords with the concept of Eros unifying the binary of chaos and Gaia in the ancient Orphic Trinity as shown in figure 12.1, which is not on these pages. The Orphic mythogenesis continues. Prehistoric society had myth as oral history in place of written history. Greek society can be understood at least as well by its myths as by its history. We too have oral history and myth as well as written history. We could change the myth and history may follow. The myth complex of a society is its cultural cognitive map, its collective self-representation, its view of itself. Spiritual narcissism, not really, maybe. The evolution of myth is the evolution of the self-representation or self-image of society, which guides our behavior today and tomorrow. If we reflect on our myth, seeing it as it is, grokking it, giving impetus to its evolution, we could participate consciously in the creation of our future. In the late Renaissance, perhaps. In the late Renaissance, for example, Monteverde and his libertists sat down and said in so many words, we don't want the Maenades because that part of the story is misogynist. We don't want Aristus either. He is a racist and male supremacist. Let's get rid of him. In italics. Comma. Period. In the reinterpretation of a fable and each new time and presentation, different choices may be made. So this chapter is really deep. In the reinterpretation of a fable and each new time and presentation, different choices may be made. In the reinterpretation of a fable and each new time and presentation, different choices may be made. This might be our greatest leverage in the creation of the future. In mythogenesis, we can apply our creative hand, our will, our understanding. We can change the myth and history may follow. There's some deep irony here because, you know, every historical period has had big problems. Matrix problems, right? Shadow, Age of Kali, Kali Yuga problems, right? But now they are bigger. Kali Yuga problems have amplified, simultaneously going into a quote-unquote golden age. So there's energetic contradiction. So I'm also adding my wisdom here too, right? The mere numerical strength of our species overpowers the planet. Whoa. Our society is on a death track. Okay. We know we need a turn to the left or right, but do not know which way to turn. It could be that our self-consciousness on the mythic level traditionally represented by the artist is all that is needed to find the right turn and to have a future. This is the optimism of the mythogenic point of view. God damn, this chapter is low-key deep. So there's like y'all can get this book. So page 175. Film is a great art combining music, libretto, animation, coordinated speech, music, and visual music. Here we have the greatest power of illusion. Wow, he's like really like this, like this is like, I'm like, this is it, dude. This is the predecessors studying the prophecy, and now the prophecy is coming to see beyond the prophecy as well, which is what? It's seeing how the matrix was put, right? Like in one sense, right? Like how the matrix was brought forth was in that paragraph. Film is it. John Cocteau made the first film on the Orpheus legend, the Testament of Orpheus in 1939. And obviously, I'm sure it's on YouTube, right? The Testament of Orpheus. In a preface called "The Filmmaker as Hypnotist," he wrote, "I have often thought that it would not. I have often thought that it would not be only economical but admirable if a Fokker, F-A-K-I-R, FAKIR were to hypnotize an entire auditorium, he could make his audience see a marvelous show and moreover could order them to not to forget it on waking. This, in a way, is the role of the screen, to practice a kind of hypnotism on the public and enable a large number of people to dream the same dream together. So how would I break that down upon me hearing that? I would say that that's just an interpretation. Why is that just an interpretation? Because we all need to we're all trying to make our own space. So if we're all trying to make our own space, we need to use the elements to make our own space. So he's talking about hypnosis, right? So I think it's a context thing of hypnosis. I think hypnosis is like a yin entertainment factor, which is just reflecting a masculine order. And the hypnosis itself is a minor illusion compared to God's real shit. But for some reason, we're scared of the universal God on a different level, and we can feel that in the unconscious. And now we're following up on micro hypnotist entertainment forms, just general entertainment. And now we're trying to simultaneously do what God's doing for entertainment. Simultaneously, we're trying to still survive, right? So I think hypnosis is a context thing. And for me to break that down like that is a miracle, because it dodges you to get out of different types of confusion that you're in. And that confusion, low key, could lead you on a different scenario to some type of funky town or some type of quote unquote funk, right? So this is advanced esoteric science. So and for people just to do, just whatever, whatever. What the hell? Last page of chapter 14. Applicable equally to the television medium today, Cocktail envisioned a sacred art of intentional intervention in creating the future. As in the Akitu festival in Babylon, with Greek tragedy in ancient Greek times, with Roman theater, and with opera in the Renaissance. I see you, girl. I see you, Oprah. We sense an opportunity to create a truly glorious future. Dude, thank the predecessors. Oh my gosh, dude. The predecessors gave it to us. We sense an opportunity to create a truly glorious future, adding to the sacred arts and rituals of the church a new wealth of secular art like opera. So Oprah, she's a reincarnated version. She's like an heir to the lineage of a certain goddess cult, right? Oh my gosh, I shouldn't, and obviously there's some things I shouldn't have said, but it's too late. I'm flowing. I'm with God's path. I'm gonna go to chapter 13. Because for some reason, okay, now I'm going to go chapter 13. Cro-Magnon, the Zodiac. So in the table of contents, he said this was like scientific, but there's still some like themes of history. So, but I guess it's like biophysiology, right? Cro-Magnon, the Zodiac, terrestrial cycles, Hamlet's Mill, the Zodiac. The Zodiac. Later, the zodiacal constellations of the celestial equator, through which the sun moves on its annual cycle around the celestial sphere, replaced the polar constellations as the calendar of the ancients. This required a further development of the mathematical scale. Many people today are ignorant of the complicated space-time pattern of the sun and the zodiac. This is the step of the evolution of archaeoastronomy that led directly to the wheel. So it's archaeoastronomy, it's a physical thing now. The zodiac may be visualized as a thick, solid wheel revolving on a spindle that's attached to the celestial sphere at its poles.
On the outer surface of the solid wheel is painted a snake representing the annual path of the sun. So like there's many different ancestors, right? And I don't like the word ancestors because the etymology kind of rings it out-tunes it, right? It detunes it, right? But there's many different ancestors. We got snakes, we got reptilians, we got amphibians, obviously, and they're already, and it's up to them to get along or not, right? Because they're all learning from each other, they're all catching game from each other. So if like, oh, you got no idea, we all are we're receiving the energies and the new ideas collectively, right? So it's up to us to collectively vote for some type of balanced law and justice system in the modern collective or not, right? So on the outer, so like I'm like just touching up on like this book within what I've learned, and I think it's like, so chapter 13, I think it's pretty cool that I could touch up on this, you know, or it just comes together, like it comes together fittingly, right? You know, like, you know, like this book has had its own workings. I've had my own workings, and now we're having like a logical relatability, right? Original open source, right? So let me just finish this. So I'm on chapter 13. Why didn't I just, I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more pages for chapter 13. This wandering accounts for the annual change in the length of daytime. In fact, it is very difficult to understand the dynamics of the sun's motion without making such a model. So Hamlet's Mill, an early model of the solar system. The Blanchard bone, engraved and shaped bone plaque from the rock shelter site of the Blanchard Dogny Aurignacion, excuse the butcher, 28,000 BC. So y'all could interpret that obviously on your own accord. This wandering accounts for, so on a spindle that's attached to the celestial sphere at its poles, on the outer surface of the solid wheel is painted a snake representing the annual path of the sun. So the sun path, LowKey, could be inside of a snake, right? Like old video games could say that, right? And I'm not going to name the video game, but I could, but I'm not. This wandering accounts for the annual change in the length of daytime. In fact, it is very difficult to understand the dynamics of the sun's motion without making such a model. The efforts of early astronomers to model this dynamical system may have led to a toy wheel, which later was enlarged and put to practical use. This may be seen as the origin of dynamics, the branch of mathematics dealing with space-time patterns, as well as a crucial step in the discovery of the wheel. The so-called Venus figurines found all over the world and dating from the late Paleolithic are symbols of the Earth goddess. So this is a deep presentation because it's kind of like it's kind of like in a rigid, it's kind of like in a rigid rigid style. It's a rigid style, but this one's pretty deep though. The so-called Venus figurines found all over the world and dating from the late Paleolithic are symbols of the Earth goddess. Thank you, Venus. Thank you, Venus. Thank you, Venus, for this beautiful season. It's reasonable to assume that our Cro-Magnon ancestors may have known that the Earth was round and that these figurines were globes. You know, I only like, you know, we need like some credible critiques, right? Because like peon perspectives, it doesn't mean shit, right? If a peon is just, you know, playing parrot, okay. Like I want some credible, you know, critiques, right?
it's reasonable. Wait, so the so-called Venus figurines found all over the world and dating from the late Paleolithic are symbols of the Earth goddess. Figure 13.3 shows one of these figurines exhibiting a rhombic geometry common to them all. It's reasonable to assume that our Cro-Magnon ancestors may have known that Earth was round and then that these figurines were globes, intentional models of Earth. Perhaps some of them were incised with maps of continents, islands, and so on. The rhombus figure discovered by Leroy Gorin also suggests that some of these figurines were suspended in a frame within which they might turn freely. Sky and Earth. The possibility of an advanced mathematics of great antiquity cannot be ruled out. This archaeomathematics would have been the basis of calendrics, timekeeping, navigation, and other sacred and secular applications then as now. These rotating globes may also have been used as models of the celestial sphere. The similarity of the models needed to understand the dynamics of these two spheres. The celestial and the terrestrial is the basis for the dictum, as above, so below. And for the idea of the partnership of the Father Sky and Mother Earth, the ideal partnership model for the nuclear family, and for the two halves of humanity. In any case, the possibility of an advanced mathematics of great antiquity cannot be ruled out. This archaeomathematics would have been the basis of calendrics, timekeeping, navigation, and other sacred and secular applications then as now. Seasonal migrations. The terrestrial cycle of the seasons determined annual population migrations, certain locations being occupied for long periods of time, determined by the slower variation of the climate and its ice ages. Eventually, regular routes were established and homes, either constructions like Terra Amata or caves such as Shanidar, and Las Cal were reused at fixed times. So things are being, so this reemergence, this matrix mechanics, fixed times, fixed yugas, going out of Kali Yuga, whatever yuga we're collectively going in, that's a fixed time where the energies that we're receiving in the environment, reactivated Uranus or whatever, significantly, infusing this energy makes it so the Earth is activating in a different way, right? And obviously that might be too deep for someone, like in how like the details might be too deep. So the details need to be processed because people could just hate on certain details, but they have no idea like the particular, like, the esoteric circuitry of it, right? Or like the solar system circuitry of it, right? That's already happening, right? So at some of these sites, temples or megalithic monuments were established for rituals, perhaps in worship of sky gods and earth goddesses. The larger caves of the Cro-Magnon seem better adapted to worship than habitation. At Glastonbury in Neolithic England, the annual migration route was marked with zodiacal signs indicating the dates of habitation of each of the sites, now called the Hides of Glastonbury. Agriculture. Ooh. Seasonal migrations were enabled by global climate warming, by celestial calendrics and navigation, thus from an evolving theory of dynamics that became mathematics and astronomy. From the seasonal migrations evolved agriculture around 9,000 BC. This great bifurcation did not occur as an instantaneous transformation. Rather, a seed was planted somewhere, then the roots of a new technology grew outward in a gradual diffusion. There may have been several nuclei and a complex space-time pattern of transformation. So there's different space-time dynamics and patterns that are embedded within the mechanisms of the matrix, right? And they're being activated and then dimensionalized, original open source, right? As shown in table 13.2, for example, the early Neolithic progressed from Egypt. There may have been several nuclei and a complex space-time pattern of transformation. As shown in table 13.2, for example, the early Neolithic progressed from Egypt as early as 15,500 BC to Western Europe around 6,500 BC, to Northern Europe around 5,000 BC, and the wheel as an artistic symbol went along with it. In the slowly developing new pattern of agriculture, people became attached to land and settlements along old migration routes. The former space-time pattern survived within the new, as temples and rituals maintain the old sacred tempo. We still have seasonal gatherings, pilgrimages to ancient sacred sites, and repetitions of rituals whose meanings are long forgotten. So people are getting like so people are like people became attached to the land in settlements along old migration routes. So there's like what's that word when people get like, you know, when their house gets repossessed? So within the shift casually from Kali Yuga, Dark Matrix time, and like crazy, like, you know, that like the Kali Yuga, it might have like, it was like, it's a thing for, it's like a deep reason, right? Like there's a deep reason why Kali Yuga is a thing, because it seems like that, like, it seems like Kali Yuga has a certain use to balance out the universe, right? In just a weird way, because it's like, if we don't see this side of consciousness for how it acts in the brutal way, the brutal wars that are enacting, it's like we're following up that on these brutal wars from different reasons, and we're all fighting for different things. So since we're fighting for different things, it's like the intention is some type of like foundation, right? And just classical Egyptian magic, right? So like the intention is like this thing that we're standing on, right? So since the intention is the thing that we're standing on, like the intention is going to be the last thing that will get us through. It's the breakthrough within the breakthrough. It's the thing that helps you, that's always there before and after the breakthrough, is some type of intention, right? So within the intention being collectively voted for, not good, not bad, to go away from God, that's why Kali Yuga was the thing, because not good, not bad, we wanted to explore something outside of God. And from that exploration outside of God, there was a different dark zone that we wanted to like see, that we wanted to war over some outside affairs in whatever fashion. So since that needed to be happened, we got attached, and we have some scaras, and we accumulated some scaras. So we're resonating within the situation, the circumstance we're in. So I'm breaking down the essence of karma, right? It's like the Kali Yuga, it was like, I'm not trying to justify anything, but it's like there was like a need for the Kali Yuga, right? There was a need just to see like, this is the balance. This is the balance container where we're experimenting to go away from balance, right? So since we're going to go away from balance, someone needs to organize that, to put that in its own container. And we're resonating within that dark Kali Yuga in very unique ways based on deep ass soul contracts, right? So I'm explaining the essence of karma, and the essence of position is based on soul contracts and original esoteric, quote unquote, a different context of free will, meaning you're following up on your desires, and as you follow up on your desires, you're accumulating cause and effect, right? And you're learning new awareness from following up on your desires. That's like esoteric karma, right? So it's like, I'm not trying to justify anybody's suffering, but we're on some complex level, in some temporary to non-temporary level, we're resonating with that. And only our intention in God could save us. Have the best life ever. Number one intelligence in the universe. It will be proven.